Okay. So, hi, everybody. My name is Suzanne Grossman. I am the Director of Career Services at the Mark School of Public and International Affairs at Baruch College, which is part of the CUNY system in New York City. I am here with my colleague Samantha Pardo from Mark's Career Services, and I want to acknowledge that this event is the first in the series of what we call the DC Virtual Trek. I'm going to put that in the chat. And I have a variety of our colleagues who are running some other events in the coming, it's October 1st. So for the month of October, we have one event each week. So do take a look at that and I'll put it in the chat again at the end. But this is the first event of our series with NASPAA schools. These are public policy and public administration schools across the country. If you want to put in the chat where you're zooming in from, what school you're affiliated with, we'd love to see that because we know we have over 200 RSVPs for today from all different schools. So that's really exciting. And I am going to turn it over to Anne Straight from the Partnership for Public Service, who is here with her colleagues. We're very fortunate to have them leading this presentation today about launching your career in federal government. So I'm going to turn it over to you, Anne. Thanks for being here.
All right. Thank you, Suzanne. Thank you so much for having us. We're happy to be here. So thank you all for joining us. If you are just joining, please scan that QR code. We'd love to know a little bit more about who's in the room. And of course, we'll also be sending a follow-up email today. And we have a roster because we're going to be sharing lots of information with you. We want to make sure you have access to all of that information and links and resources after we leave here today. So again, my name is Anne Straith. I am an associate manager here at the Partnership for Public Service, and I'm going to be sharing more information about how you can launch your career in federal government. All right. So we'll start by giving you a little bit more information about the Partnership for Public Service, who we are, what we do, and then get into federal government at a glance, and then get into your path to public service and all of the resources and information that you're going to need to know along the way. We'll talk about federal careers in government, how you can find those opportunities using USA Jobs, as well as some information on how you can stay engaged. All right, so before we really dive in, what is the Partnership for Public Service? We are a nonprofit, nonpartisan organization that is building a better government and a stronger democracy. We do that in many ways, but we believe in recruiting and inspiring the next generation of public servants to serve in critical mission-oriented roles to create a better government and stronger democracy, which again is why we're here with you all today. So while we're not the federal government, we oftentimes will joke that we kind of are like the best friend of the federal government. So I would love to kick things off with a little bit of a reflective moment. And what is your call to serve? So what we mean by that is, what are you bringing with you today? What is your motivation? What brings you to public service? We'd love to know a little bit more if you want to share that in the chat. We'll give that a minute for folks to. I'm seeing some great options here: emergency management, racial injustice, all great reasons to pursue public service. Economic development, yes, we've got some excellent answers here. And hopefully we will have some resources and information that's going to be applicable to all of you today. Yes, career pathways, absolutely. Great, I love this. We've got some great answers here. So let's get into, what is the federal civil service? So as I'm sure you know, the government is comprised of three branches. We have the legislative branch, which consists of Congress, the judicial branch, which houses the courts, and then the executive branch, where all of the agencies, president, and cabinet exist. So when we talk about the federal civil service, we are specifically speaking about this branch. And the civil service is not political, so folks in the civil service are not elected, nor are their jobs affected by changes in administration. So let's look beyond the president and the top people in the White House. Combined, that's maybe 1,000 people, and they're elected by voters or appointed by the president. And yet the federal civil service is very large. The executive branch of government employs 2.1 million federal civilian employees, which makes it the largest employer in the country. Civil service is not political and is not affected by change of presidential administration again. So the majority of those 2.1 civilians are employed by the executive branch agencies. So there are 15 executive departments and over 400 independent agencies. So do any of you know some of those 15 executive departments? Please put them in the chat. Um, so some examples of those might include Department of Defense, Health and Urban Development. We also have the Department of the Interior listed as an example, which houses one of our favorite government entities, which is the National Park Service. So those are just a couple of examples. I'm seeing more come in the chat. We've got Health and Human Services, Department of State. Yes, excellent. So you are very familiar, which is excellent. So with so many employees and agencies, where do all of these people work? The answer to that is everywhere. So a lot of people think that civil servants are clustered in Washington, when actually most of them live and work elsewhere. So they have offices in all 50 states as well as federal offices around the world. Over 80% of federal employees are actually outside of the Washington, D.C. metro area. And this map that you see on the screen here shows a number of different federal employees in each state as of November 2023. All right, so you can see, if you're curious, this data is available via FedScope, which is provided by OPM. So if you want to dive into a particular state, that information is available and you can see what agencies are going to be hiring most within a particular state, but there are opportunities nationwide. All right. Um, So, employed all across the US, civil servants work in a surprisingly wide range of fields. At different points in our lives, we all benefit from services these civil servants provide. So, does anybody have any ideas on how the National Institute of Standards and Technology in the Department of Commerce might affect you? If you want to drop some ideas in the chat. What does this agency do? Well, we will give folks a moment, but I don't want to jump. Oh, here we go. Yeah, standardization of technological products coming to the U.S. Yeah, so they do some of that. They have yes, they have standards. They make sure that all of our technology is keeping time properly. So if any of you woke up to an alarm clock this morning, that is what this agency does. They're keeping us on time. They're making sure that those standards are held. They maintain the official time standard for the US, the time our smartphones and clocks reflect. So yeah, absolutely. So does anybody have an idea of what the Food and Drug Administration, which is within the Department of Health and Human Services, does for us? Yeah, absolutely. Approved new medications, approved drugs. Yes, people most often think of Food and Drug Administration in regards to healthcare and medications, but they also ensure the safe handling standards for the food that we eat. The FDA approves and regulates medical devices, of course, to ensure they're safe and effective. So if any of you have had breakfast this morning, they were the ones making sure that that food was safe for you to eat. Um, does anybody have, did anybody this morning check the weather? Like maybe you needed an umbrella, maybe you wanted to know what to wear when you left the house. Um, So when you are looking at that data for weather information, anything that you might need in regards to what's going on when you step outside, that is going to be the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, which is also within the Department of Commerce. They provide the most comprehensive data on weather and climate patterns. And so thanks to them being part of our federal government, everyone can access this information for free. So all of the sources, whether it's your phone, whether it's meteorologists on TV, they're all getting their data from National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration. So if anybody has experience traveling, or you like to travel, or you would like to travel in the future, you are likely going to interact with the U.S. State Department. Their passport office can issue you a new passport or renew the one you have, so you can cross international borders and return home. And so our last agency here that we're providing as an example is the FAA. So it is housed within the Department of Transportation, which maintains a safe, sensible routing system for airplanes that are crisscrossing across the country. So if you're going on those travels, they're making sure the plane that you are in is going to be flying safely. So there are so many ways the government works along in the background of our day-to-day lives, keeping you safe, healthy, and secure. So we are here today to show you how you can be a part of that. Um, and it really is important that you are. So with only around 7% of federal employees under the age of 30, and about 1 in 3 federal employees eligible to retire in 2025, which is coming up pretty quick, it is very important to get people like you and, for example, these 2024 future leaders in public service interns who are standing with the acting secretary of HUD into areas of government where you can make a difference in other people's lives. So, as someone just starting a career, the federal government really is an awesome place to work. So, we will be diving into some of those perks. One being that you can make a big impact. By working in federal government, you can impact hundreds of millions of lives, as we found as we found out in our federal government in action section here, they really do affect uh, folks living in this country nationwide. And we were coming into contact with something that's been involved with government every day, from your breakfast to checking your phone. So it really is impactful in our day-to-day lives. So the work that you do really matters, and you're going to be impacting people across the country. So it's also known for really great work-life balance. The federal government often offers flexible schedules, some work from home privileges, and all federal agencies have telework policies in place. So the federal government also provides a generous number of sick days and vacation days as well. So you really get a sense of that work-life balance. Uh, then there's also possible student loan repayment assistance. So you've probably heard of the Public Service Loan Forgiveness Program, where you work in public service for 10 years, and the government will forgive the remaining balance on your eligible student loans. Certain agencies will also offer supplemental programs to that as well. So if that's something that you're interested in, doing a little research on the agencies that you're applying to can provide you additional information there as well. So with a health and retirement, the federal government really is known for their strong health insurance programs and retirement benefits, which are known to be some of the best in the country. And compared to the private sector, where job growth and security may be dependent on revenue, the federal workforce is funded by taxes and federal fees, enabling a more secure work environment. In addition, once you start in the federal government, it's easy to stay. So there's many opportunities for promotion and lateral career moves, even across agencies. And then most agencies offer opportunities for continuing education and professional development. So we know that continuing to learn and grow is really important, and the government often offers opportunities for you to do this at a variety of stages in your career. We also know that it is, um, and we've talked about this, but the government is not just for political science majors. There really is a job for everyone, as it touches us in all like different areas of our lives. Government needs a wide variety of skill sets. We also know that something that's important to many people in a work environment is an emphasis on diversity, equity, inclusion, and accessibility. So the government is taking steps to further advance DEIA both within its workplace and in the projects that it takes on. So one example of this is the Department of Housing and Urban Development is working to eliminate the racial gap in home ownership, address the disproportionate rates of homelessness among underserved communities, uh, and reduce bias in the home appraisal process through the Interagency Task Force on Property Appraisal and Valuation Equity. So if there are any of these that particularly resonate most, we'd love to hear it in the chat. So please go ahead and list if there's any of these that really resonate with you. But we will pause here and see if anybody has any questions about the federal civil service or the benefits of working in the federal government before we move on. And we will also have some time for Q&A at the end. So if you're dropping any questions into the chat, we'll be able to review this at the end as well. So now that we've got one question. Okay, Yes. So we'll come back to questions at the end. For now, I would love to engage you all with a Menti poll. So if you can scan that QR code or join at menti.com using the code on the screen, we would love to learn a little bit more about who's in the room so that we can guide the rest of the presentation and make sure we are reflecting information that's going to be helpful to you. And this poll is anonymous. You'll see the live results on the screen. Um, So if you want to take out your phone, scan that QR code, we'd love to have engagement. All right. So yes, we have mostly graduate students in our panel today, but a few undergrads. All right, excellent. Many great opportunities here within government. All right, so next we would like to know what you're studying. You're here today for a NASPAA event, so got a couple guesses, but I would love to hear from you. What is your degree? What are you studying? What's your major? Bachelor's in Public Policy. Yep. All right. Public Affairs, Urban Planning. Yes, it's awesome to see all of this array of field. And as we've mentioned before, government is not just for political science majors. So everybody, you've all got your niche interests and what you want to do within government. And we really want to emphasize that there is an opportunity that's going to be related to what you want to pursue. All right. So the next thing we want to know is who here feels confident about applying to opportunities in the federal government. This could be a job, an internship, a fellowship. Like, what is your comfort level pursuing this application process? We've got some that say yes, some that say no. Leaning more in the no's right now. So whether you do or you don't, we're hoping that you'll walk away from this session with additional information and feeling even more confident about your application process. Right. So so that we can tailor the presentation to your needs, we'd like to know what areas you're most interested in. We'll be going over each of these items, but can pay special attention where needed. So if you selected other, please let us know in the chat what you are specifically interested in. Looks like we've got somebody looking for how to find federal internships. Yeah, absolutely. Quite a few of those. Writing federal resumes. Yes. How to use USA Jobs, federal career examples. All right, so we will be touching on each of these things throughout the presentation, but definitely we'll be digging deep into how to find those opportunities and how to write that federal resume. All right, so to test your knowledge a little bit about federal jobs, we'd like to know if you can figure out which of these jobs is not in the federal civil service. So we've got a planetary protection officer, motion picture preservation, archivist technician, and the grizzly bear conflict manager. So we've got a couple people thinking they're all federal jobs, one saying none of them are, and then two grizzly bear conflict managers. Okay, we've got some good answers here. And most of you did figure us out. They are all federal jobs. So the Planetary Protection Office is the practice of protecting solar system bodies from contamination by Earth life and protecting Earth from possible life forms that may be returned from other solar system bodies. So that is housed within NASA. And then the goal of the Motion Picture Preservation Lab is to provide appropriate film-based and digital products to ensure access to the National Archives and Records Administration motion film collections, as well as to provide needed services and expertise to assist National Archives staff and other stakeholders dealing with the film's collection on a technical level. Then the grizzly bear conflict manager, yes, it is a real job. I was surprised too, is responsible for coordinating grizzly bear conflict management in Montana, Wyoming, Idaho, and Washington, jointly with state agencies, tribes, and wildlife services, according to the Grizzly Bear Recovery Plan, interagency grizzly bear guidelines, and interagency agreements. And that is housed within the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. So lots of interesting things going on in government. These are just a few of those examples. So just keep that in mind as we continue. All right. So finding and applying to federal opportunities can be somewhat of a challenging journey. As you can see here, if you indulge us in our little metaphor for a moment of our public service roadshow that we're on right now, we've got the car with like some ups and downs. We're going to be making some stops along the way with resources and information that's going to help you along that journey. So we want to make it as easy as possible for you to navigate the road and have created this presentation to help guide you through resources and tips. So we're going to pivot to talk about why and how to apply to federal jobs. We'll review what types of careers there are in federal government, our resources to help you navigate opportunities, which is called Go Government, and how to use USA Jobs in the which is the federal hiring website. That's where you're going to see most of your applications being submitted. Again, the federal hiring system can take some time to learn, so be patient with yourself and know that you have a lot of resources to help you out along the way. Our goal here is to introduce you to some of these concepts and strategies so when you leave here today, you'll know how to get started and continue pursuing those federal careers. So when you're just starting out, it can be confusing and a little challenging to get through all of the potential information on federal opportunities. There's a lot out there. Our website, Go Government, is a tool to learn, engage, and connect with federal opportunities. USA Jobs is going to be the main way that you're going to apply for those opportunities. But as you can see here, we offer information on benefits, the pay scale, writing federal resumes, and more. So we really recommend that you spend some time here. All sections are important, but we also recommend learning more about background checks and what they entail before pursuing your own federal hiring process. All right. So again, as we said before, there really is a place for everyone in federal government, regardless of major. I know we've got a lot of folks focused on public policy, international relations, and public affairs here today. So we will go through one of our resources, which is our career guide. It offers 16 different categories of types of careers you can have within government. So if we go to our administration and program management field, you can see some information on statistics, what agencies are employing the most folks within that field, job series codes, which are useful as you start searching for openings on USA Jobs. All you have to do is paste the code into the search bar, and it will filter specifically for jobs that are pertaining to that code. So once you find a type of job that you're interested in, you can use that to help narrow down your search on USA Jobs. They also share example postings. They'll go over descriptions and locations of jobs so you have an idea of what that's going to look like when you get to USA Jobs. And then if you want more ways to explore federal careers, for those of you who love Netflix, we recommend The G Word with Adam Conover, which is a documentary comedy show that discusses a wide array of topics related to government work, which is kind of interesting and funny if you're looking for more content. But this is going to provide you with some information and statistics about what this career might look like in government. All right, so before we continue, um, if there are any questions about the career guides, we're happy to answer them. We're going to get into this next section talking about some specific resources that we have on Go Government, which is our federal internship finder. But I want to open space for you to enter any questions that you might have for us to circle back to. And my colleague Juna has been dropping links in the chat to both Go Government and our career guides. So if you want to explore those, we recommend you do so as well. But those will also be included in our follow-up email, so you don't need to worry about copying and pasting them if you're not actively in the chat. All right. So with this understanding of what a federal career in government might look like, you might ask yourself where you would actually get started. So breaking into federal government can be difficult, and we've created a tool specifically for students and recent graduates looking for internships and entry-level positions like yourselves, which is called the Federal Internship Finder, and this is going to be the next stop on our path. So the Federal Internship Finder was created for students like you to have a centralized place and find opportunities within government to explore what's out there. There are just over 900 opportunities in the database right now. And though actual applications are housed on a different website, all information that is related and links to that information are going to be available in one place. So you can narrow it down, find what's interesting to you, and then pursue those opportunities directly to open your eyes to agencies that you maybe hadn't considered before. So the Federal Internship Finder is a database that the partnership created to bring all opportunities for students and recent graduates into one place. We have comprehensive filters. We've got 10 of them right now that help you narrow down your search based on your interests and what you're looking for. So you can go to our career field filter and enter social sciences to narrow down opportunities just to those related fields. We can also narrow it down. I know we had a lot of graduate students in the room with us today, so we can narrow it down that way. And I don't know about paid internship out there, so we wanted to provide you with the opportunity to filter those out if you wanted. And then say I'm looking specifically for an internship. I can filter that as well, but we can just continue scrolling and see the different types of opportunities that are there. We've got fellowships, academic opportunities. So it is called the Federal Internship Finder, but it's not just internships. So as you see, you'll have information on whether it's full-time, if it's paid. So all of those filters that you could enter in at the top, you'll see all of that information in each tile. And then as you identify opportunities that you're interested in, that you want to learn more about and maybe apply to, you'll have a button to learn more. And that's going to open in a new tab. It's going to take you directly to the agency website that's going to list information on eligibility, how you can apply, when to expect that application window. So you'll have everything that you need, but then your search page is still going to be right there exactly the way you wanted it to be. So it's meant to really drive you towards federal opportunities, regardless of whether or not it's hiring season. As I'm sure many of you know, if you've been on USA Jobs, it's a job board. So they're only going to show opportunities that are open right now. The Federal Internship Finder is designed to help you plan ahead for future opportunities and know what will be available to you down the line. So you can think 6 months, a year ahead about what kinds of opportunities you will want to apply for in that time frame. Right. And then we know that your advisors tell you to research your potential employers. Well, the best places to work, federal government website is a great place to do that. If you want to know more about workplace culture or employee satisfaction, this tool uses employee surveys to create rankings and real statistics on what it's like to work for a given agency. So we really recommend that you check this out to get a better idea of what types of agencies might be the best fit for you. And again, my colleague Juna has dropped those links in the chat, but they will also be included in our follow-up email. All right, and here I am going to pass things over to my colleague Danica, who's going to dive into how to apply and navigate USA Jobs.
Thank you, Anne, and hello, everyone. It's so great to have a large group here today to learn about federal service. My name is Danica Harutian, and I'm a senior manager at the Partnership for Public Service, working alongside Anne. And thank you all for participating in the chat. I saw some familiar names and institutions as well. I'm based in California on behalf of the partnership. So thank you for joining us from wherever you are today. And as Anne said, we have lots of resources, so we'll be sure to continue sharing these links in the chat as we move forward and in our follow-up communication to you all. So we just talked a lot about federal service at a high level and how to find opportunities such as through the Federal Internship Finder. Say you find an awesome opportunity that you want to apply to from searching on the Federal Internship Finder. Now it is likely that you will need to actually apply and submit that application using the usajobs.gov portal, which is the federal government's job portal. So we're going to jump into that platform now. So using the Zoom feature of raising your hand, I'm curious if what amount from this group has created a USA Jobs profile. You can virtual hand to share. Great. We have definitely several of you today who have created a profile, maybe some others who have definitely browsed on USA Jobs. I highly recommend creating a profile. So as you can see from this homepage, there is the ability to search for opportunities by location, create a profile, and if you create a profile. A lot of the complications about this platform can be narrowed down to some ways to make it more efficient for you. So if you have a profile, you can really save your interest searches and notification system. So we're going to dive into that. But one takeaway from today, if you do not have a profile on usajobs.gov, I would highly recommend creating your own. And on a high level, it is a job portal, so we highly recommend using filters to narrow down your search on a large scale. One that the arrow points to on the left-hand side screenshot on this slide is the students filter. So you are all, from my understanding, mostly graduate students and some undergraduate students here today. That will help narrow down your search. Students and recent graduates is one that we would emphasize. You would review the results, review the job announcement, just like any other job portal. And most importantly, ensure that what you're searching and looking at and putting time into is eligible for you. So if it's open to the public, meaning not only open to current federal employees, that is something that you are able to apply to. And we're going to get into some of these filters more in depth. Here are some that we'd like to highlight. You can see on the top left, if this opportunity is open to the public, that is really important. Unless you are a current federal employee, you can see a variety of other options here. So on the next slide, if you are a veteran, thank you for your service. And there are opportunities using your USA Jobs profile to upload documentation about your service. There is a opportunity to have your veteran status taken into consideration when applying to federal positions, giving some preference and appointment over other applicants. You do have to prove your eligibility for such preference, and we have the link in the chat of how you would do that using your USA Jobs profile. If you are an individual with a disability, we encourage you also to access our resource to find out more about the Workforce Recruitment Program, which collaborates with the higher education community to recruit students and recent graduates with disabilities to employment opportunities. And there is a hiring option called Schedule A. It's a hiring authority, which allows the government to streamline and speed up the hire of a person with disabilities. There's also documentation required there, and we have more information on our webpage. For Native Americans, there is also a filter on USA Jobs that can determine different opportunities, specifically with the Bureau of Indian Affairs in the U.S. Department of the Interior and the Indian Health Service in the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, authorized by Congress to encourage qualified American Indians and Alaska Natives to seek employment with the federal government. And last but not least, non-competitive eligibility is a really important filter I want to highlight. Any raised hands, if those of you here today are alum of AmeriCorps or Peace Corps or the Gilman Scholarship or the Fulbright Fellowship, the Critical Language Scholarship, so many government-sponsored exchange and volunteer service opportunities and programs. Great. Thank you for sharing, those of you who are alum. So glad you are here today. If you are an alum of those programs, or if you're interested in pursuing those programs post-graduation and interested in federal service, the great news is that you do not have to pick between those two. If you are an alum, it depends on each program, but usually for about 1 to 2 years, you also have something called non-competitive eligibility, which is a benefit in notating your alumni status of these programs that adds additional preference as well in the USA Jobs hiring submission. If you So if you're an alum now, you would want to check with your program office if you still have that non-competitive eligibility. And then if you are right now pursuing AmeriCorps, for example, then you can know that at the end of your service, you would have this non-competitive eligibility for your future career pursuits. So those are 4 filters on the screen. On the next slide, we'll dive deeper into the students and recent graduates filter, which is, I think, most relevant here. So you qualify for positions that are designated for recent graduates up to 2 years post-graduation or up to 6 years post-graduation for veterans. For the graduate students in the meeting, you will see some of the most typical pay scale ranges for graduate students are 7 to 9. So GS stands for General Service. And we also have a resource about the pay schedule and different steps within all of those levels. And you'll also want to note that when you are looking at usajobs.gov, some of those titles that say trainee are intended to mean an internship. So pay attention to some of those that use the word trainee. And if you're interested in that internship turning into full-time employment rather than a temporary opportunity, look out for the verbiage that says conversion eligible. As opposed to not to exceed. So that's another flag that we want to share today as you're searching. There's so many opportunities, including the Pathways and Recent Graduates program, which some agencies use to recruit paid interns and recent grads. And not all internships or entry-level jobs are called Pathways, but it's a good program to look out for. You can also see on this screen the Federal Internship Portal, which is the USA Jobs site, narrowed down only to the internship level opportunities. So today we've given you resources such as our own Federal Internship Finder, where you're browsing for opportunities that Anne shared with you. Could also go straight to USA.gov, and you can also go straight to intern.usajobs.gov, which would only show you those internships. Not every agency is at 100% posting on these portals, so that's why we want to give you the full range of where to look, and in our best interest for you, giving you that full overview of where to look. So moving forward, Anne also showed you on our career guide, Go Government resource, that there are 4-digit job series codes. So how do you use that on USA Jobs? You can find those 4-digit codes, let's say in public affairs, 1035. You could plug it in to USA Jobs right in the search bar and find those opportunities. This screenshot is for the language specialist role. So you can see already that in a general search result, you'll see a salary range. You'll see if it's open to the public with those filters on the right-hand side, the location, the agency, of course, and the open application dates. That's really important to look at because sometimes USA Jobs postings close with a limited number of days or once they reach a maximum number of applications, which it would note, for example, it might close after receiving 200 applications. So that's another thing to look out for. So I mentioned that it's really beneficial to create your own USA Jobs account, and it'll help you in the process. So if you narrow down your search perfectly to your intentions and the filters, the location, and your documents, you can save your search, you can save postings, you can set up alerts so that you are notified of new jobs posted in your preference range. And here's just another screenshot about important areas that you would need to review, such as who is this open to, the duties and requirements, required documents, how to save an application, the open and closing dates, etc. Here's what it would look like on USA Jobs. If you have your own account, you can save that application, save a job that you're working on, save a search, and get notified. And you could set up those notifications to your preference. Next, we're also going to talk about federal resumes and how you can be prepared by creating a federal resume and then saving those documents again on your USA Jobs account to easily edit for future applications. So before we move forward in the slide, does anyone have any guesses in the chat how long a federal resume should be? Great guesses in the chat. Many of you know that the standard resume is a one-pager across most industries. And for federal, it's actually much longer. So 2 to 5 pages, meant to be cumulative about your experiences. They are longer, and it is a place to really share any and all applicable experience. So we'll get into what more of what that would include. We recommend using the USA Jobs Resume Builder, which will set up, the different form fields and criteria that will help you with the format. So again, another benefit to creating a USA Jobs account is using that USA Jobs Resume Builder. So what belongs on a federal resume? Beyond what you would put on a one-page resume, such as work experience, education, you really want to go in depth about your experience, including leadership experience, volunteer experience, relevant coursework, projects, practicums, anything that is relevant to that job posting. The Federal Resume Builder will also ask for every job experience, the hours per week, so that they can learn if it is part-time or full-time, temporary, etc. It does ask for salary information, and we want you to note that that is optional to share. There is a link in the chat, our Go Government resource for federal resumes, as well as a primer. It'll ask for supervisor information and whether or not that past supervisor can be contacted, your education, references, job-related training, language skills, organizations or affiliations, professional publications, and there's definitely also other room to encapsulate any leadership experience and such that would be relevant. So it is a place to be thorough with your experience. You can upload a formatted federal resume on USA Jobs, and we recommend that as soon as you get those alerts from your USA Jobs account that a relevant post has been is open, then you can use your standard federal resume to make it a little bit more specific to the position you are applying to. Use quantitative and qualitative bullet points. Of course, market your skills and achievements. Do not use a federal resume to be humble. It is a time to be thorough with your accomplishments. And then, of course, spelling and grammar matter. Be concise and clear. Use common language. So what we mean by that is stray away from acronyms or specific language that might not be understood by a hiring manager and more so understood by a subject matter expert. And at the end of the day, remember that the resume is your application. The resume is so important because it also ultimately determines your salary offer and that initial job offer package. So think of the resume as the full application. And using all the resources that we've gone over today, it's important to plan ahead. So the federal internship finder that Anne shared with you notes some filters on when should you apply, how seasonal is that opportunity, how does it recur twice a year, for example. Using USA Jobs and the tips and tricks that we've provided as well, it's important to move quickly when you apply before an application closes, but then also understand that we recommend applying up to 6 months before graduation or before your intended employment start because of the process of the application review, interview, with the federal government, it does move slower than other industries. And knowing that following a job offer, there is the required background check for most positions. we have a resource as well about background checks on GoGovernment, all leading up to an official hire. So stick with it. We know that there are it is often needed to cast a really wide net with job searches and perhaps have intermediary roles before that federal hire comes through. So please utilize our resources all along the way. How to prepare for a background investigation. I'll be really brief in the interest of time, and you can check out the gogovernment.org link in the chat. But you can preview the forms that will likely be requested in a background check just to know what are some things that are typically asked in the process. One thing that I would have wanted to know, for example, from a student perspective as well is what are all the addresses that I've ever lived at with roommates or apartments or internationally, things like that. So anything you can do to help your future self, take a look at that background check guide that you can start preparing so that when the time comes for an offer, you can move forward on those documents. So in the interest of time, I'll quickly go through how to stay in touch about these opportunities, and then we will hear about an opportunity you can apply for through our organization, the Partnership for Public Service, and hear from an alum as well. So we provided a lot of resources today. You can also learn about particular federal agencies on their social media accounts, of course, see some day in the life accounts of federal employees. What are some of the examples of work that they do every single day across the country? You can check out agency websites. Specifically, this one is the National Park Service. So, of course, opportunities will be on USA Jobs, but if you're really set on one agency in particular, look at their opportunities on their own website as well, and you might be able to connect with a regional recruiter or other areas of connection. On campus, of course, you all heard about this NASPAA event. Thank you to our partners at Baruch for organizing today this type of information session, and there are more in their federal in their series this month. So continue to attend events such as these and job fairs where you get to meet with recruiters. And then know that there are also events posted to the USA Jobs website, often online. And they are organized by specific agencies or the overall Office of Personnel Management. So if you want to dive deeper, for example, into the federal resume, there are lots of opportunities to continue learning through USA Jobs events. This is our gogovernment.org homepage once again. We have a monthly newsletter where you can hear all about these resources periodically. The link is in the chat, and we'll move forward. And I'm happy to share about an opportunity organized by the Partnership for Public Service. So as mentioned, we are not the federal government. We are a nonprofit, but we partner with federal agencies. And over the past 3 years, we've placed over 500 students in paid internships across federal agencies, and we're currently recruiting and open for applications for summer 2025. So this application deadline is due on November 22nd. The full-time opportunity can be remote or in person this summer with a stipend range listed on the screen. The final stipend amount will just depend on the agency selection process. Our contact information is on this screen. After you check out the application on our webpage, let us know if you have any questions. And as mentioned, there are really opportunities in all program fields. I imagine many of you might be interested most in public administration. Other opportunities here, we have really grown this program, and there are also a few open only to graduate students that I can highlight. So the opportunity for integrated prevention is for students interested in violence prevention and public health work in the government. This would most likely be for MPH or master's students in working in health and public health. Then we have the Rosenthal Fellowship in International Affairs, open only to graduate students. This is open as well to MPA, MPP, MA students, as long as there is a demonstrated interest and experience in international relations or international affairs. So if your official degree title does not say international relations, it is still something that is eligible for you as long as you have that interest and eligibility in international related work in public service. So there's so much I hope that has that you're able to take forward in searching for an opportunity today. This one we emphasize as it is run by our organization, and we hope we receive some of your applications this fall. And then I'm going to invite Jordana, if she is here, to come on camera and unmute. Jordana, are you here? Great. Welcome. So Jordana is an alum of our summer 2024 program, and I've asked her to just share a little bit about her experience, especially at the grad level and given her background. So Jordana, if you'd like to introduce yourself and a little bit about your background and where you interned this past summer.
Sure. So my name is Jordana. As Danica said, I did my undergrad at the University of Chicago, where I double majored in political science and Near Eastern studies. After undergrad, I went to work for the Department of Defense, where my work focused on North and West Africa and analyzing conflicts there. I'm currently in my second year of graduate school at Columbia University, where my program focuses on international security and sub-Saharan Africa. I came to grad school because I wanted to pivot from an analytic role in which I produced knowledge for policymakers to a more policy making role where I would be able to actually affect change. That desire led me to the Rosenthal Fellowship, which I did this summer. And I was fortunate enough to be placed in a policy office. So I worked at the Office of the Undersecretary of Defense for Policy, where I crafted the U.S. Department of Defense policy toward the West African Sahel amid our ongoing withdrawal from our military bases in Niger. Happy to pause for the next question now.
Thank you very much. And for the audience listening, the Future Leaders in Public Service program includes this program track in international relations and professional development, all as a cohort this summer. So if you could tell us a bit about an example of a project you worked on this summer or a highlight of the experience.
Yeah. Part of what made this experience so special and so meaningful for me was that by the time I joined my team, I wasn't treated as an intern. I was treated as a fully functioning member of the team. And so as the United States government reevaluated our posture and strategy in West Africa, I was able to draft part of our strategy. And I actually prepared the undersecretary herself for a National Security Council deputies meeting, in which we went and represented DoD's positions and led to a major decision on posture and strategy, which should be forthcoming. So that was incredibly meaningful, right? Being able to inform and shape the decisions of our senior leaders, and then to see my words brought to the Deputy National Security Advisor and represented through, the highest offices of the Pentagon.
Thank you for sharing. And my last question, knowing that many folks in the audience are interested in various agencies and areas of public service, what advice do you have for those applying to the Future Leaders program or just federal internships?
Yeah. As the earlier slide said, it really is a matter of being persistent. These are slow and often bureaucratic processes. So it works to your advantage if you're applying for federal positions to apply to multiple. Looking particularly at the Future Leaders Program and the Rosenthal Fellowship, I think one strength of the program and one thing that maybe you guys are looking for is a strong why. And so in the application essays, I would encourage anyone applying to focus on both their motivation for a career in public service, as well as their preparedness and their ability to contribute if selected as a Rosenthal or Future Leaders Fellow. One final piece of advice I'd give is to be open-minded. I had an idea that I wanted to be in the Defense Department, and that's where I landed. But over the course of the fellowship placement, cycle, I had the opportunity to talk to folks from Treasury, Labor, other parts of the DoD, state, and these are connections that I'm still using to this day as I look at like post-grad options. So it's opened my eyes to the depth and breadth of federal opportunities, but it's also given me some great contacts simply just through interviewing at different departments and agencies.
Excellent advice. Thank you so much. And we appreciate you joining today to share about your experience and wish you all of the best, of course. For our participants today, thank you so much for your time. We hope that it was useful to you, and there is a session evaluation link in the chat. I know that there is another link that is the continued series of this this opportunity from NASPAA for students in public administration. There we go in the chat, the DC virtual trek. Thank you again, and I'll hand it back to Suzanne.
Yeah, thanks so much, Danica and Anne and Jordana, for being here. Do you have time to take some questions if there are? I know I might have to hop off in a minute, but my colleague is here, or do you have to head off? We could stop the recording here, perhaps, and then I can leave it open for a few minutes. Does that sound good?
Sure.
I can stay another like 10 minutes if people have questions about my experience.
Okay, great. So I'm going to stop the recording and thank everyone for being here today. We hope to see you at the next event in the session, which is an information session with the Congressional Budget Office, among other events this month. So thank you, everybody. Oops. Stop the recording. For some reason here we go.